deploying your capital out into the future set of opportunities by investing in early stage venture. So that's it.
Todd, thank you. Thank you. So I see Tim. Tim is on. Hi, Tim.
Hi there. Sorry, I was trying to get on a
No worries.
Microsoft Teams account or something.
Yeah,
Great. Good to be here.
Good to have you. We just heard from Todd Draper about the state of VC. And maybe, Todd, can you stick around for, because I'm sure there'll be some interesting counterpoint. Maybe you guys will violently agree. Who knows?
I think Tim and I violently agree.
I think we agree for sure. I just heard the last part of it, and I definitely think he's onto something there.
Where are you, Tim? You look like you're in a bookstore. Where are you? Oh no, it's your.
No, this is my home office.
Oh, your home office. Sorry, I couldn't see it very well.
Hey, great to be here.
Tell us how you see the world.
Okay, well, first I'm going to add to what Todd said, which is, here's what happened in my mind. The venture capitalists had did what they do. They invest for the long haul. Things went very well. It boomed in 2021 or 2020, and then the investment bankers decided that they were venture capitalists, and they raised a whole bunch of money. And rather than putting it to work, they flushed it. And it made venture capital look like a bad asset class. And now they're all out of the business because they can't raise money again because they flushed it. And the true venture capitalists are back doing their thing again. And the entrepreneurs had a little bit of a whipsaw effect during that time when the investment bankers came and became venture capitalists. What happened was the entrepreneurs were just going along their merry way and growing organically or with small amounts of capital, which is the way we like it. And then they'd say, I'm going out for $10 million, and Tiger Global would give them $100 million. And we're thinking, okay, take the money, just don't spend it. But the entrepreneur, Tiger Global, said you have to spend our money, we want you to grow market share or whatever. And so then they'd spend it, they'd get a huge overhead, and then of course Tiger Global can't raise money anymore, and their market crashes, and the entrepreneur who had built up his overhead in anticipation of more money isn't getting it, and so then they hit the wall. And now everybody's back to normal, realizing that money doesn't grow on trees. And then I hope we don't have this cycle again. I hope the investor gets smarter and they don't back investment bankers as venture capitalists.
But that's going to happen again and again and again. It just is, right?
Yeah.
Just take advantage of it, right?
It's okay. We love the business. I love entrepreneurs. It's a
so what excites you, despite all the crosswinds, tailwinds? What excites you? I know you were talking about AI and how everything's like a different regime internally. But what are you thinking about right now?
Yeah, we do a lot of AI ourselves. Well, I'll do a couple of things. I'll talk geographically. I've just been 2.5 weeks in India, and I think there are some great entrepreneurs coming from India. We filmed our show, Meet the Drapers, and something like 100 million people watch, and about 50 million of them are from India. And so we decided to spend 2.5 weeks and do a whole season of the show in India. But by doing it, we discovered some really great entrepreneurial ventures. and got a really good feel for what's going on in India. It's very, I'm very optimistic about it. It's a,
Well, despite it being
they've come off-
demographically,
they've
it's
come off a
growing.
boom and bust there.
What really excites you? I mean, it's
Well,
growing.
Can I
Todd.
jump in?
Go ahead,
Can I
Todd.
jump in on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think and I'm curious your take, Tim. I think the 21st century will be the century of massive advancements in digital biology. You know, we've seen the transformation capabilities of AI with mainstream applications in consumer and enterprise. I think we'll next see it in biology. It would be a transformational leap, allowing for the engineering of biology rather than just the studying of it. You know, we've already engineered cells by reprogramming them. You know, we now have gene editing tools such as CRISPR that can turn off diseases at the DNA level. So I think the intersection of AI, next-gen sequencing, and cellular reprogramming will enable the golden age of bioinnovation.
Yeah, that's one of our four main themes, where it's even better than that because you're digitally diagnosing disease, and it's so specific to the individual because you have so much incredible data on the individual that you can also digitally use therapies. And so those two things can be really are transformative, and Big Pharma is going to fight it every step of the way because they are one size fits all, and that's their business model. But I think that the entrepreneurs are coming up with incredible cures and new forms of diagnosis that is all digitally done, and new forms of therapeutics that are all digitally
What are the other three, Tim?
The other three are space and transportation. Elon Musk broke open huge log jams there, and the creativity that's happening in those areas is extraordinary. And then the gravitation of cryptocurrency to Bitcoin, where Bitcoin's getting to be a bigger and bigger share of all cryptocurrency, and all the engineers are gravitating toward Bitcoin. And so
No, you're not just talking your book, though, are you, Tim?
What's that?
You're not just talking your book on Bitcoin, because you own a lot.
I own a lot, you bet. And I'm, in fact, kind of selling the smaller ones and buying more Bitcoin. So just, I don't know whether, what I do helps you decide what to do with it. The other thing I've got is, the other thing that we're looking at is, so space and transportation to creativity is wild. The Bitcoin creativity is about to go wild because now that we are getting a new SEC chairman, my guess is that there will be a lot more creativity that comes in. You know, what happened was a lot of my great entrepreneurs came up with really extraordinary ideas for how they could work on the blockchain or do smart contracts or something with new forms of Bitcoin or whatever. They all had to geofence the U.S. Because of our SEC was just laying down speed bumps all the way along the road. So, or minefields actually, it's more like minefield. So the other thing, the third theme is, wait, what do I have? Space and
It's four.
transportation.
You're on four now.
I'm on four. Four is AI. AI is going to take all our jobs, as my son Adam says, and as it takes all of our jobs, it's going to take all our jobs just the way the horseless carriage took the job away from the buggy whip manufacturer. And what happens is the buggy whip manufacturer becomes a car mechanic. When electricity shows up, all of a sudden the candle makers are out of business, but they've got to adapt to electric lights and they become electricians. I think we're going through another period like that. All our jobs, every industry is being transformed, including my own, by AI, and I believe that we're using AI for about 5 different purposes. I have a digital twin. He does all the PR for all my portfolio companies. We use AI to evaluate markets, people, industries, companies. We use AI to keep records of all the video calls we have. We use AI, we are using AI, we haven't done it yet, but we can detect emotions, so we can detect lies, we can detect passion. All with AI. So many things are happening with AI, and we're getting in front of it. Now, in education, AI is going to totally transform education, and that's probably a fun area to spend some time in.
So let me ask you both, other than India, I give you a fresh $1 billion. Geographically, how do you allocate?
I think you.
Well, first we got to negotiate on how I put that $1 billion to work, but after that,
assume you have a
after
20, you
that-
have a 20% carry on the $1 billion.
that's a little light. So,
And why not
so
include
we're,
India? Come on.
I would say Latin America, certain countries of Latin America are becoming capitalists, and that is fabulous. Venezuela, finally Malay has come to Venezuela.
Todd wants to weigh in, Tim. 1 second. Go ahead, Todd.
I just said, I agree with Tim, but I said the same is happening in certain countries in Africa.
So what do you think about Africa, Tim?
I have made a lot of investments in Africa, and there's still a lot of fraud in Africa. So I'm.
Oh, there's no fraud in India, by the way.
Absolutely not.
Well, they do work. They do work. See, what happens in Africa is you build something of great value, and then the government takes it from you. It depends on the African country, of course. So I believe there are 5 interesting African countries that are becoming capitalist and democracies. They kind of need both in Africa. But in Latin America, you got Malay. In Argentina, you got Lacalle, who just left, but still he set the tone. In Uruguay, the Paraguayan president doing great things. The El Salvadoran president, Bukele, is creating a whole Bitcoin economy there. He's got to be feeling pretty good right now. And I think other parts of Latin America are following suit. I know Sebastian Piñera in Chile was a great capitalist, and I think we've got a movement down there. And then, I think in the U.S., if it goes the way I hope it goes, I love the idea of deregulation and lowering the number of bureaucrats and all that. I'm not crazy about all the putting up trade barriers, but the rest of it looks very promising. And I think we've got a big opportunity in the U.S. and Silicon Valley. As soon as we trust that Washington is not going to come back and swat us in the face for some new creative thing that we did, Silicon Valley might have a resurgence.
So we just did a survey, Tim, and the focus, surprisingly, was what excites everyone overwhelmingly was energy investments.
That's because he said drill, drill, drill.
Well, I mean, there's also people looking at alternative, but what do you all think of, plus we have to fund all this AI infrastructure. It has to be energized. Thoughts on that?
Right, because you need the energy to run the AI. It's funny, we always find the energy we need. The sky was falling on Bitcoin too. And then they realized that over time, it was less and less energy, and people did most of the small transactions on layer 2, layer 3. So I think in AI, the same thing's going to happen. I think they're looking at the world linearly, and they should be looking at it exponentially. I think people will find the energy they need.
Todd, what are your thoughts?
One other thing.
Yeah.
I would not put another dime into China until President Xi either sees the light or goes away. That guy's a dictator. He believes everything is his. And I wouldn't put any money into Russia as long as Putin's there. But the rest of them,
But the rest of
Europe
them?
will follow the U.S., so that's promising.
Well, let me just open it up. We have such a great couple of people to ask questions to. Any questions from the crowd here?
Well, could we
Yeah.
all just kind of,
Anthony, a question inside of 60 seconds now.
we'll do 15 seconds. Could we do any comments about Argentina and, for, against, and can it continue? Is it puzzling and so on?
Very much for, in favor.
Yeah.
Malay has changed everything. They had huge inflation. It was stealing everybody's money. And then when Malay came in, he created a capitalistic structure. He has deregulated. He has done some extraordinary things. And now the peso, the Argentinian peso, is back. In fact, people are trying to sell their dollars to get Argentinian pesos.
Yeah, I agree with Tim.
So what's your most exciting investment, Todd? Other than Antler?
A company it's got nothing to do with Antler. It's a company in Lagos, Nigeria, that is using stable coins to provide transmission from business to business, and also from folks in the United States and Europe down to the diaspora in Africa. It's growing like a weed. The main entity that provides remittances is Western Union, charging a 7% fee. This company has zero fee other than the difference between the currencies. And it happens simultaneously, instantaneously.
So-
They're growing like.
And you have investments in how many countries approximately, Todd?
Over 50.
And Tim, what's your favorite deal at the moment?
Well, when they're startups, it's like asking who your favorite child is. It takes a while before you see something that looks really promising. So I've got a bunch of favorites, and they span all those fields. We got a brain-computer interface company. We've got a couple of AI robotics companies. We have a company that from Romania that's an AI chip, but it's better than that. It's in effect a brain, and the chip adapts. So it's like NVIDIA, where NVIDIA is a structured chip. This is NVIDIA with adaptation, the way a human brain adapts.
Interesting.
We've got a whole wide variety. I've also got a company called Nautilus that is just the way Tesla took on the auto industry, this blended wing thing is taking on Boeing and Airbus. I always look for these startups that are taking on a monopoly or oligopoly that's providing bad service at a high cost. And so I like Nowlist because of that. They need more money. They need we want to put more in, but
Don't
they
forget
need
us
more
here
money.
at 361, we can syndicate with you, right? So,
That would be great.
any, I guess there are a couple questions on the chat. Michael Hammer, you had your hand up, you have a quick one?
Just a quick comment is, going back to Todd's presentation, and I'm a small fish in a big pond. Been doing early stage investments for about 15, 16 years now. Another foot on the founder side. And I guess my comment is, I agree with much of what you said, Todd. One, there's a lot of variability in terms of funds and the returns that they give LPs. One of the things that I've seen is a lot of founders get their big exit and turn around and all of a sudden they're VCs. Being a good founder does not necessarily make one a good VC. And the other thing is that, and Tim, I like what you were saying about your forward thesis. A lot of funds kind of throw money at the wall, and I think back to 500 startups, Dave McClure, they just threw money everywhere. Where are they today? Gone. So there's a lot of, even though early stage companies are a very interesting investment area and opportunity, there's a lot of nuances in getting up the learning curve, particularly for the LPs.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody wants to, if you want to
Yeah,
respond? to that?
500 still exists with another leader. So, yeah, they're not gone. Yeah, I think you've just got to, having done it yourself for a long time, that this business is for the patient. You find people, particularly early stage, the ones that look like they're winners early usually aren't. And the ones that just kind of keep their heads down and go slowly build something of great value, and it might be 15 years before it's hit maturity and we have 10-year funds. So it's a real dilemma.
And maybe Tim and Todd, how do you play the patient game in light of secondaries? The opportunistic cherry picking?
Secondaries help liquidity for people who are get into desperate situations. So I kind of like having secondaries. I'd like that to all be tokenized, but the SEC hasn't allowed that to happen. So once the SEC allows that to happen, then there'll be a much more free market in LP interests, and I think we will all be better off.
Todd?
Secondary discounts in the venture capital area are always far larger than in the private equity area because you can't do a discounted cash flow. But a year ago, venture secondary discounts were 50%, and today they're about 12%.
Does that bode well for your earlier graph for a new primary VC fund vintage class?
I think putting money into the ground over the next 3 years is going to be a brilliant time to invest. And I think secondaries are always going to be, it's an asset class, it's always going to be additive. You just have to make, but the discounts have closed.
And by the way, if you invest in secondary funds, beware, because what they do is they buy secondaries at a 50% discount to NAV, and then they immediately mark it up to NAV for their own guarantees. So those are very much artificial returns, so just beware. Some of them are doing great things and making good money and all that, but.
We got an audience question here, Tim. 1 second.
Hi, Tim McCarthy, Halcyon Portfolio Management. Question for Tim Draper. I heard your comment before to stay away from China and Russia, and I fully agree with that. My question is for how long? And I think you answered it. You said until Xi, until Putin are gone, or regime change, or dead, or whatever. But I think this started with COVID and supply chain risk management, and then it was exacerbated by the war in 2022, the invasion in Ukraine. It seems like the world is sort of bifurcating between democracies and authoritarian regimes. And I just wonder if I can get your view on the time horizon of this split of the world and how it affects your investments, how it should affect all different markets, liquid public equity as well as private equity. How long should we stay away from China and Russia?
Well, China was a fabulous trading partner for a long time. I mean, I invested in China for 30 years before then I got wind. I was the first Silicon Valley investor to go into China, and I was the first one to get out of there. And it all had to do with freedom and how open their borders were. With our current administration, I think we're getting our own act together first. And then I think we can start opening up olive branches and lowering the trade barriers. And when that starts to happen, then I think all the countries of the world will lower their trade barriers and we'll get better trade. But for now, there's a big brain drain coming out of China, and there's a big brain drain coming out of Russia. They're all coming to the Silicon Valley. They're starting their businesses there, and we're happy about that.
So you can all replay the recording of today's 8 a.m. There's several scenarios from shaky to basically belligerent to enlightenment. So we're all we'll all be in this shaky mode for a while, was part of the consensus that coming out of that. We're about to go, we're supposed to move into deals. Any last questions? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, just a couple of last questions for Tim.
Samir, very, very, very quickly.
Crypto, we'd just like to talk about that. Crypto is supposed to be a store of value for regular people. I guess the question is, it's a great investment, but the fact that still no stores today accept crypto as a means of exchange, right? The question is how sustainable is that as as an asset class, or I guess since it's not typically backed, aside from things like stable coins. That's a bigger discussion, probably not right now, but if we can find a time to discuss that later, will be great.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is a good store of value. You know exactly how many there are. There are 21 million of them. The other cryptocurrencies, I don't believe are a store of value. I think they vary. Some are very useful. Some are trying new things. Some are just outright worthless. And the retailers, as soon as they realize that they can save 2% when they, or at least 1% when they accept Bitcoin, are going to slowly but surely accept Bitcoin, and then there will be a moment in the world where you find you can buy your food, clothing, shelter, and pay your taxes all in Bitcoin, and there will be no reason to own any fiat currency. But and stable coins are a great bridge to Bitcoin, but they're still tied to governments. And if you're going to be tied to governments, then politicians can just spend and create money out of thin air, and the money you have becomes less valuable. And that's why Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation, but it's also a hedge against bad governance. It's global, it's open, it's transparent. You can move it across border easily. You can it is the, I mean, it's remarkable that, people have written just the opposite, but it's the safest currency out there.
So thank you, Tim, and thank you, Todd. Hopefully you stick around, and Adam, keep your questions. We're going to switch to deals, from the macro to the micro. We have several funds. We're going to do a rapid fire. If you could put it up right now.
I've got to leave, Mark, but
Yeah.
but thanks.
Thank you.
I do too, Mark, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you. This was
Hey, I
great.
can do the answers.
And guys, yeah, and if, Mark, if you want to put something together for Nautilus,
Yes,
happy to talk to you about that.
I want to create it. Yeah, we'll talk to you.
All right.
Let's
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And so Nick Davidov, why don't you be the first to kick us off here with a presentation on your fund. You've invested in over 100 AI companies out of the Valley. You now have a sort of follow-on fund, or it's a combination of follow-on and new opportunities. You were first to tell us about Perplexity, and here you are. And you came to our first conference in New York, 2018, when it snowed. Do you remember that?
Yes, I got a flu.
Oh, that was before COVID.
Hey, snow doesn't cause flu.
Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Happy New Year. Sorry for
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, so
11:19.
I am one of the brain that we just heard about. So I moved to Silicon Valley from Russia in 2014.
Join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.